right, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Limnackern here with Gurveer Denza. Time for our segment called In Case You Missed It.
Right. So we're talking football today.
Okay.
Well, kind of. Friday Night Lights, really big around here. High school sports is huge. Of course, football. We're in the middle of football season. And this past Friday night, Rome High School took on East Paulding. Okay. Both have really, really good teams. This time around, Rome whooped up on East Paulding, but it's not really the football game we want to focus on today. It's what happened last month that allowed that football team to take the field. The Atlanta News First Surprise Squad got an opportunity to honor a man who is credited with saving lives. Take a look at this.
This was supposed to be a surprise, but it looks like you surprised all of us by showing up early for your surprise. So you guys, can you give him a hand? This was supposed to be a surprise. You were supposed to be here 30 minutes later.
I ain't never been the type to be late for nothing, so. It's all about being on time.
Which says something about Nikita Strickland's character and why the Atlanta News First Surprise Squad is here. Strickland was driving this bus a couple of weeks ago, bringing Rome high school football players and coaches back from a scrimmage.
And I see his car come over down into my lane, trying to pass another car. And all I had time to do was swerve out the way. Because out of all the accidents I'd have never had, that was the worst. But I want to thank y'all. I think this is real nice. One of the nicer things I never had somebody do for me.
A small token for a humble man.
But it was all about God.
Amen.
That's the only one that I can thank for it.
For the Atlanta News First Surprise Squad,
If it weren't for him, we probably wouldn't be here.
I'm Gurveer Denza.
Okay, I want to let you know, everyone, that we are keeping our eyes on the courtroom, as a jury has now begun deliberating in the trial of a father who's charged in connection with his daughter's death. Cledir Barros' previous two trials resulted in mistrials, with jurors deadlocked, unable to reach a unanimous verdict. So prosecutors brought this case to trial for a third time, which obviously is allowed in the state of Georgia. So 38-year-old Cledir Barros is charged with child cruelty in connection to the death of his 8-year-old daughter, Syra. His wife, Natiela Barros, is charged with murder. According to police, on January 30th, Natiela Barros was angry with Syra while she was homeschooling her and allegedly hit her in the back of the neck with a wooden rolling pin while Cledir Barros was at work. Police said Natiela struck the child between 10 and 20 times. Prosecutors have been trying to prove that Cledir Barros knew about prior abuse in the home.
This is Cledir Barros' third criminal trial within the last couple of months. The first two ended in a mistrial.
And that they're alleging that he showed more concern for his wife after the incident than for his own child, and essentially that he failed to do enough to save his child, that he waited 10 to 20 minutes before actually calling 911. And closing arguments wrapped up a short time ago. The jury began deliberating around 10:30 this morning, just half an hour ago. And we heard some really impactful testimony from Cledir Barros himself on Friday. He took the stand. So that's video of him taking the stand. So when a verdict is reached, again, deliberations underway, we're kind of on a verdict watch at the moment. When a verdict is reached, we're going to bring it to you live here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. I want to turn to some other news that we're following right now, and in case you missed this. So now COVID vaccines are no longer free for people who don't have insurance. And with COVID-19 cases up across metro Atlanta and the country, updated COVID vaccines, well, they're now available at your local pharmacy. But again, this could come with some serious sticker shock for Georgians who don't have health insurance. Atlanta News First Blake Devine has more from outside of a CVS in the old 4th Ward. And again, the CDC ended its program providing free shots for those without insurance.
The CDC's Bridge Access program, which offered free COVID vaccine to uninsured adults, ended when September started, meaning that many adults are wondering why their COVID vaccines aren't free and why they cost up to $200.
Up until now, the federal government had a program in place to help cover the cost of COVID vaccines for uninsured folks or people whose insurance didn't cover the full cost. That program has now ended.
Rebecca Grapevine is a public health expert who says hundreds of thousands of people may not have access to the updated COVID vaccine. With around 1 million uninsured adults under the age of 65, Georgia has one of the nation's highest uninsured rates.
The state government is stepping in to buy some COVID vaccines for uninsured folks that they could get for free, but they're probably only going to purchase around 38,000 of those right now.
According to CVS, the shots could cost around $202 for uninsured patients paying out of pocket. We talked to some longtime locals in Atlanta who say that isn't affordable.
Who can actually afford that in this climate? Without insurance, I don't see how it's possible, especially for people living at or under the poverty line.
I think they won't do it. I mean, I think that's unfair. I mean, COVID is serious still. It needs, people need to be vaccinated.
Stephanie Sherman is a Medicare patient who just got her COVID shot here at this CVS. With the CDC's free vaccine program concluded, she's concerned this could contribute to more people catching COVID.
Already we've seen the rise at the end of the summer, and we haven't even entered into the season where they think it's, typically increases. So I think definitely we'll see a rise.
Health experts say these new vaccines will be free for those with Medicare, along with any kid under the age of 18. Although uninsured adults will be weighing whether they can afford it.
The only other option is, again, to try through the County Board of Health or find a charity clinic near you that might be able to help out.
Keep in mind, around 2.4% of all deaths in Georgia are caused by COVID. That's around 10 to 20 deaths per week. Obviously, a lot lower than the highs of the pandemic, but still a significant number. Reporting in Old Fourth Ward, Blake Devine, Atlanta News First.
All right, turning now to an Atlanta News First Investigates exclusive. Okay, so our Atlanta News First investigation has uncovered millions of dollars worth of stolen cars being shipped out of Georgia in an attempt to fund terrorist organizations. Atlanta News First anchor Blair Miller traveled to Savannah and met with Border Protection officers to see what they found.
This is how we usually see the Port of Savannah, fueling our economy with hundreds of thousands of these giant metal containers loaded and unloaded from these huge cargo ships every month. Inside, everything from consumer electronics to food. But what you don't see here is what agents with U.S. Customs and Border Protection showed Atlanta News First Investigates.
We've been finding very high-end vehicles, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Ferrari.
And not just a few. Officers took us inside this warehouse.
Just a few months ago, this looked like a luxury car warehouse.
Here we found one high-end car after the next. Officers told us these cars are stolen, some from Atlanta's airport, and brought here to the Port of Savannah in an attempt to ship them overseas.
Now our officers kind of have to look at these cars, look for fake bins.
They showed us how it's happening. This container was about to be loaded onto a ship to head overseas. This is what officers found when they inspected it. A brand new Lamborghini.
All right, pop the hood.
But officers noticed the vehicle's identification number had been cut out of the vehicle.
The first thing we look for, the VIN numbers, to see if there's an NCIC or if it's listed as stolen somewhere.
And it turned out it was listed as stolen from a car dealership in Miami. A second car, a stolen Bentley, valued at $300,000, was also inside.
Is that just a criminal ring that's doing that and just to make money? Is that all it is, or something more play?
It's more at play. So these are typically, we're able to build out through our intel team that there's a network here. So one or two people might be linked to 20, 30, 40 cars, a few $1 million. So that is not a small ring. And typically that money is going overseas, is trade-based money laundering. And in some cases, the cases are being taken by the FBI because they are funding terrorism.
According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the cars are being shipped to countries including Ghana, Libya, Jordan, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. In the last year, the agency has recovered 72 stolen vehicles with a combined value of $7 million.
It looks like a stolen car going outbound, so typically you're saying, why do you care? It's leaving the country. It's because that money is leaving the country and it's funding something much worse.
And more on that and all of our top stories on AtlantaNewsFirst.com, and of course by downloading our free mobile news app, which will also get you updates sent right to your phone. Thanks for joining us. Now here's more local news live.